Chapter 48. Jacob's Way. Genesis 30, 1-43. And when Rachel saw that she bare Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister, and said unto Jacob, Give me children, or else I die. And Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel, and he said, Am I in God's stead, who hath withheld from thee the fruit of the womb? And she said, Behold, my maid Bilhah, go in unto her, and she shall bear upon my knees, that I may also have children by her. And she gave him Bilhah her handmaid to wife, and Jacob went in unto her. And Bilhah conceived, and bare Jacob a son. And Rachel said, God hath judged me, and hath also heard my voice, and hath given me a son. Therefore she called his name Dan. And Bilhah, Rachel's maid, conceived again, and bare Jacob a second son. And Rachel said, With great wrestlings have I wrestled with my sister, and I have prevailed. And she called his name Naphtali. When Leah saw that she had left bearing, she took Zilpah her maid, and gave her Jacob to wife. And Zilpah, Leah's maid, bare Jacob a son. And Leah said, A troop cometh, and she calleth his name Gad. And Zilpah, Leah's maid, bare Jacob a second son. And Leah said, Happy am I, for the daughters will call me blessed. And she called his name Asher. And Reuben went in the days of wheat harvest, and found mandrakes in the field, and brought them unto his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, Give me, I pray thee, of thy son's mandrakes. And she said unto her, Is it a small matter that thou hast taken my husband, and wouldest thou take away my son's mandrakes also? And Rachel said, Therefore he shall lie with thee tonight for thy son's mandrakes. And Jacob came out of the field in the evening, and Leah went out to meet him, and said, Thou must come in unto me, for surely I have hired thee with my son's mandrakes. And he lay with her that night. And God hearkened unto Leah, and she conceived, and bare Jacob the fifth son. And Leah said, God hath given me my hire, because I have given my maiden to my husband. And she called his name Issachar. And Leah conceived again, and bare Jacob the sixth son. And Leah said, God hath endued me with a good dowry. Now will my husband dwell with me, because I have borne him 6 sons. And she called his name Zebulun. And afterwards she bare a daughter, and called her name Dinah. And God remembered Rachel, and God hearkened to her, and opened her womb. And she conceived, and bare a son, and said, God hath taken away my reproach. And she called his name Joseph, and said, The Lord shall add to me another son. And it came to pass, when Rachel had borne Joseph, that Jacob said unto Laban, Send me away, that I may go unto mine own place, and to my country. Give me my wives and my children, for whom I have served thee, and let me go, for thou knowest my service which I have done thee. And Laban said unto him, I pray thee, if I have found favour in thine eyes, tarry, for I have learned by experience that the Lord hath blessed me for thy sake. And he said, Appoint me thy wages, and I will give it. And he said unto him, Thou knowest how I have served thee, and how thy cattle was with me. For it was little which thou had before I came, and it is now increased unto a multitude, and the Lord hath blessed thee since my coming, and now when shall I provide for mine own house also? And he said, What shall I give thee? And Jacob said, Thou shalt not give me anything. If thou wilt do this thing for me, I will again feed and keep thy flock. I will pass through all the flock today, removing from thence all the speckled and spotted cattle, and all the brown cattle among the sheep, and the spotted and speckled among the goats, and of such shall be my hire. So shall my righteousness answer for me in time to come, when it shall come for my hire before thy face. Every one that is not speckled and spotted among the goats, and brown among the sheep, that shall be counted stolen with me. And Laban said, Behold, I would it might be according to thy word. And he removed that day the he-goats that were ring-streaked and spotted, and all the she-goats that were speckled and spotted, and every one that had some white in it, and all the brown among the sheep, and gave them into the hand of his sons. And he set 3 days' journey between himself and Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flocks. And Jacob took rods of green poplar, and of hazel and chestnut tree, and pilled white streaks in them, and made the white appear which was in the rods. And he set the rods which he had pilled before the flocks in the gutters in the watering troughs when the flocks came to drink, that they should conceive when they came to drink. And the flocks conceived before the rods, and brought forth cattle ring-streaked, speckled and spotted. And Jacob did separate the lambs, and set the faces of the flocks towards the ring-streaked, and all the brown in the flock of Laban. And he put his own flocks by themselves, and put them not unto Laban's cattle. And it came to pass, whensoever the stronger cattle did conceive, that Jacob laid the rods before the eyes of the cattle in the gutters, that they might conceive among the rods. But when the cattle were feeble, he put them not in, so the feeble were Laban's, and the stronger Jacob's. And the man increased exceedingly, and had much cattle, and maidservants, and menservants, and camels, and asses. Genesis 30, 1-43. Jacob was obviously partial to Rachel, and God therefore showed partiality to Leah, as Genesis 29:31 tells us. The two sisters were engaged in a sorry competition for Jacob's love, a common problem in polygamy, despite Mormon propaganda to the contrary. Some of the saddest stories about polygamy come out of the Mormon practice. While Leah was bearing sons to Jacob, Rachel's envy grew. She finally turned on her husband as though her childlessness was his fault. Jacob angrily responded to her tantrum. She said, "Give me children, or else I die." Jacob very angrily, if correctly, answered, "Am I in God's stead, who hath withheld from thee the fruit of thy womb?" Verses 1 and 2. Rachel then offered her maid Bilhah to Jacob. Again, this was a legal practice in the society out of which Abram's family came. It was common to Nuzu and Hurrian law. The child of the union, when the concubine was given to the husband by the wife, was legally the wife's son, as Rachel's comment in verse 3 makes clear. In antiquity, women saw the children under their care as their own children. If, as Hagar did, someone created a division, that was another matter. Sarah's bitterness was due to the fact that Hagar created a break where harmony and gratitude should have existed. Leah bore Jacob 6 sons, Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun, and a daughter, Dinah. Her maid Zilpah bore 2 sons, Gad and Asher. Rachel bore Joseph and Benjamin, and Bilhah 2 also, Dan and Naphtali. The names given to all these sons reflect the conflict. Reuben, see as son. Simon, hearing, that is, God has heard me. Levi, joined, that is, this will join me to my husband. Judah, praise, I will praise the Lord. Issachar, a hire or pay. Zebulun, dwelling, hoping that God would now endue her with her husband's favoritism. Zilpah's sons were Gad, a troop or company. Asher, happy. Rachel bore Joseph, meaning adding, because she now expected another son. Benjamin means the son of the right hand. Bilhah's sons were Dan, meaning judging, because Rachel saw his birth as a judgment in her favor. Naphtali means my wrestling, that is, with her sister. The competition between the sisters had as its primary victim Jacob. Apparently nothing he could do or say altered the matter. We have seen how bluntly he had spoken to Rachel, verses 1 and 2. The sisters were in an intense competition, and at one point Rachel gave her bed right to Leah in exchange for Reuben's mandrakes. Mandrakes are a tasty root of the same family as potatoes. They are edible raw, very prized in many cultures, and in antiquity they were believed to help conception. In Leah's case, gaining Jacob for the night subsequently led to Issachar's birth. The time came when Jacob, having served Laban for 14 years for Leah and Rachel, asked to be allowed to leave. Laban was reluctant to see Jacob leave. Esau could well be awaiting Jacob's return to kill him and the children and seize the inheritance. There was no reason to believe otherwise. Also, Laban frankly admitted that Jacob's presence had meant, quote, "The Lord bless me for thy sake," verse 27. He urged Jacob to remain and asked him to set his own wages, verse 28. Jacob asked only the speckled, spotted, and brown births of the cattle, sheep, and goats, verses 30 to 33. To this, Laban agreed, but he then removed all such animals from those tended by Jacob and placed them in the hands of his sons, 3 days' journey away from where Jacob was tending the flocks and herds, verses 34 to 36. Jacob then resorted to a folk custom, hoping to mark the animals before birth. He used debarked branches, and the results were prolific births favouring him, verses 37 to 43. In Genesis 31:12 following, God lets Jacob know that it was he, not Jacob's device, that led to the births of animals favouring Jacob. By so informing Jacob, God let him know that it was not Jacob's devising, but God's providence that was prospering him. Jacob was in a very difficult bind. At home, his brother wanted to kill him. In Haran, his father-in-law wanted to keep him because he was a great asset, and also because he did not want to lose his daughters and grandchildren. Jacob, however, had no desire to be Laban's heir, and hence his request for the freedom to develop his own herds and flocks. This request made obvious the fact that Jacob was refusing to become a part of Laban's household and family. It did create a breach. For Laban, it meant losing his daughters and grandchildren to at least an uncertain future and possible death. It was not unreasonable for Laban to oppose in one way or another their departure. On the other hand, for Jacob, this was not a matter of being reasonable or sensible, but an act of faith. The land of Canaan and the promised Messiah were to be his future, and he stood on that faith. Jacob was a man of stubborn and unbending faith, and nothing was going to shake him or deter him from his God-ordained course. He was God's man, not Laban's, or Leah's, or Rachel's. Jacob had begun as the hesitant and timid son of Isaac and Rebekah. Step by step, God was compelling Jacob to stand in terms of his calling and not to be overly hesitant in terms of his necessary requirements. Justice was and is no matter for hesitancy and modesty. This was God requiring Jacob to learn.